just because, hey, they like us.
What's going on here, Jesse? What are you doing?
Oh, me and the Grogs, we're having a little, chat.
You're not playing with your toys on the show, Jesse. You're not playing with your toys on the show. Hi, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net. I'm here with Flonius Maximus and my slow adult son, Jesse. How are you, dude? How are you, dudes?
Fantastic.
Good. All right. Good. Yeah. Today we're going to talk a little bit about old Grogu, though. You were on point, and I took you off point, but you were on point. We're going to talk about George Lucas's little connection to Grogu and some of the I guess contributions he made to the character, and sort of what his point of view was on Grogu. And I think that's kind of fascinating. I had heard back in the day that he contributed the species name of Yoda to them, but that's never come out.
Yeah, it's never been said.
That's never become a thing. Maybe they didn't like what he said. I heard he didn't like the name Grogu. And
we did not even speak his name.
Yeah, and he contributed a name for Grogu, and then they used it for that other Mando who was with the those ladies, the Night Owl, the Blue Mando trios that aren't in the cult, and so it went that way. Oh yeah, everybody! Before I forget, today Star Wars Santa is going to go live on his show, and he's going to unbox his Razor Crest.
What?
So if you guys want to vicariously live through Star Wars Santa and know what it's like to have one,
is it the HasLab Razor Crest?
It HasLab, yeah.
I have mine downstairs.
You do? Are you going to open it?
Yeah. Damn. I don't know, man. I don't know.
He's got to finish building the shrine to it.
Because I guess that's why he's Star Wars Santa. He'll do it. He'll open it. We won't. Not us.
Well, he has elves. He can make another one. It's like.
Well, he is the.
It's not the same thing.
The toys, so.
Yeah, the Bible talks about that. I'm certain. I don't know, but it talks about everything.
Man, you're getting that. You're getting that old crackle back. You're getting the crackle back, dude. I don't know. We'll see if it gets worse or not. But
I've changed nothing.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. But yes, there is jizz in the air. The sound of jizz in the air is this show in your ear holes, right? Okay. Well, let's go and I guess we'll start the old article over from the Direct, where they get into some of the stuff.
Tuning in for smooth jizz.
I don't know why, but when I very first saw the article, I was kind of cracking up because the picture that they use of Lucas just makes me laugh for some reason.
You're telling me this is Diet Coke? It doesn't taste like Diet Coke.
It's just George Lucas going like, Grogu.
I think I really went that way.
So Star Wars ownership may have officially changed hands, but only one man's vision of the galaxy far, far away is truly pure, George Lucas. I like where your head's at there, Andrew Gilman, but I gotta say, I think a lot of people were disagreeing with you while he owned it. The maker's imagination spawned one of the most successful franchises of all time, a classic story of good versus evil that's inspired several generations of fans. While some of his work was maligned in the past, there he goes. Many critics have come around to appreciating what the creator was able to accomplish. I didn't have to come around. I was always there with my boy George Lucas. But Rob wants to fight him.
Crackle.
Crackle. You're not crackling.
Watch your back, son.
Dude, I liked you better when you crackled. You kind of were like, you kind of had like a real indie vibe going on,
Getting street cred.
Yeah, you were street, dude. You were pretty street back then. You changed.
He's like Casey Jones.
I'm street like Michael Jackson's street. You know what I mean?
You're bad, dude. You're bad.
You're Casey Jones, man. Come on. Get the hockey stick.
Okay.
I wish.
It's only fitting that his own Padawan, Dave Filoni, has taken on a major role in Star Wars storytelling, overseeing the live-action Mandoverse alongside Jon Favreau. Lucas remains in close contact with Filoni, as well as Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy, and has visited the sets of each Star Wars project under the Disney umbrella. He spent significant time hanging around the Mandalorian's production. In fact, he wouldn't go home. They had to say, "George, you need to leave. This isn't yours anymore."
I have a kid now. I should be here. You don't really appreciate all this until you have kids. That's what I'm told.
Makes sense, George. You need to get out sometimes.
Oh,
you need to,
right.
you need to go into that notebook of weird names and just throw them around sometimes. I get it. Lucas is essentially the Yoda of Star Wars, a wise man with lessons to impart on those who will listen on how to be a good person and overcome trying times. Filoni was initially hesitant to include a baby of Yoda's species in The Mandalorian, so he didn't want to take away from the mystique of the Jedi Master. Eventually, he acquiesced, and with Favreau, he created one of the most popular characters in the franchise.
They said I get like 1%, like 1% of the toys. So I had to do it. I couldn't.
Last night I was watching. I can't remember who it was now. It was a YouTube show, and they did like a look back on the original Batman from '89, and about how they were like really willing to basically make a whole product line based off of like how what Star Wars had done, how that had inspired it. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of fascinating because there was this interview, I think it was on Letterman with Michael Keaton, and he's like, do you get a share of the proceeds from the merchandise? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I have to approve when I'm on socks and stuff. And but Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson made a ton of money off that first Batman. And you
saw those pictures, right? The new ones of him.
Yeah.
Good,
yeah, I saw Andy Signor tweeted it out, and I retweeted it. That was amazing. I gotta say, that's Batman. That's Batman.
Dude. It's just like the same from Batman Returns, just a little updated. Not too done, but just a little bit.
Yeah, it was great. Fantastic. I could look at it all day.
Somebody actually like they took the cowl from Batman Forever with Val Kilmer.
Yeah. Somebody messaged me, and I don't remember who it was now. Sorry, it's probably somebody in the chat right now. And in it, they said, "You guys should do a whole episode on that Batman costume." And I was,
hey man, anytime you want to talk about Batman, I'll fucking be here. Yeah,
exactly.
But I was told to stop fucking talking about Batman.
No.
Saying the word "fuck" all the time because it's a kid show. Obviously, kids are tuning in at 12 noon. Sorry,
lining up around the block.
Every time someone tells me this is a family show, I'm like, what fucked up families?
What fucking show are you watching, motherfucker?
Gather around the whole YouTube's around noon to watch the Makings.
They're gonna have fun with some of that meet and greet.
Yeah, no, don't go to school today. How about we skip and go fishing at the fishing hole and watch the Making Star Wars, as a family.
Y'all want to see a dead body?
Every time I have a thought like that, I pretend I'm Booger from Better Off Dead. When he hears a joke, and he's just like, "What are you saying, dude? It's a family show." All right, sorry. Get back to the family. Yeah, if you guys want to talk about Batman, though, man, I'll be down any day.
This fandom needs an enema. That's what I will say. Okay, so
Star Wars definitely needs an enema.
Yeah, the fandom mostly. George Lucas wanted Grogu to have training, like potty training. The direct got our hands on the Star Wars book, The Art of the Mandalorian, Season 2. And within it, writer and director Dave Filoni reveals that he had discussions with George Lucas regarding Grogu. In those talks, the creator wanted to ensure that the character had learned how to hone his Force abilities. Can you see this to read this as Filoni, or should I just read it as human Filoni?
Oh, you have to read it, man. I'm
okay.
Literally drawing while we're doing it.
No worries. I had to talk with George at one point about the child, and his main concern was that the kid has to have a proper amount of training. So George Lucas was like, he can't just be powerful. He's not Yoda.
I'm super glad we didn't get the flipping and the bouncing around.
Yeah, you didn't want that at the end of Mando. I mean, at the end of
I
Book of
totally
Boba.
want that. I disagree. Like seeing him jump around as a puppet is what was missing from that Attack of the Clones fight. Like I'm telling you, man, the more you have puppets jumping around and getting blown up and murdered, the happier I am.
I'll
Like,
tell
like,
you this:
like
when David Bowie is dancing with them and they're singing "Dance Magic Dance," I love that
yeah,
shit.
Right?
yeah, yeah. And look, we watched a puppet piss in that fucking movie. Like we've never seen a Muppet urinate before.
That's
So I'm
true.
all for it, man. Make them all have the puppets jump around, let them do the crane kick and shit, bullet time, gun fu, was that equilibrium, all that good stuff, man. I
Yeah,
want Mad Max with the Muppets, Fury Road,
yeah.
All
There
right,
you
fair
go.
enough.
I believe you more because you're crackling it again. That's why I believe you more. That's why I think you're right.
Shit. I don't know what to do.
Drawing
About
on
that.
that
Sorry,
street
guys.
knowledge. He's pulling on that street knowledge and just dropping it on us, dude. Nuggets at a time.
Well, now his name is Indie Rob. Indie Rob. He's Pitchforks Rob. All right. Anyways, yeah. I go like there's times when I want them to elongate the Grogu relationship. Like, did I need Grogu back with Mando the very next show? I actually didn't need that. Did I like seeing it? I did. It made me happy. And could it have been prolonged a bit more? I definitely think that they could have milked that drama in a way that wouldn't have been gratuitous a bit more. And it would have been like, okay, it would have made it seem like it was more like something that may happen. Now, whenever they do something big in the Filoni Favreau universe, you really don't know if it's going to stick long. You don't know how long they're going to live with the consequences of their story's actions.
Yeah.
The answer probably is until it's inconvenient, and that's what we had here, I think. But Grogu jumping around, like when he's jumping around a little bit, when he's starting to get the Force back and his memory back, with Luke, I was like, yeah, and I was ready for him to get that dark saber and take those droids down, and that would have taken it up to 11.
The lightest person picking up the heaviest lightsaber. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be that's the thing. If you're wielding the Force, you can do it. It doesn't matter. It could be if you have the Force, it could be an X-wing fighter, and he could pick it up and beat the shit out of the Rancor with it if he wanted to. That's the whole beauty of the concept, right?
I like that meme that somebody made with the Rancor and Grogu. It's like, hey, big guy, sun's getting real low.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But anyways, okay, so, and as it turns out, Lucas had an indirect influence on a decision made for Chapter 15, The Believer, by artist Doug Chang as well, thanks to a set visit for Rogue One. An early idea was that the Imperial drivers were wearing the same armor as the AT-AT commanders from The Empire Strikes Back. Ultimately, we decided to go with the tank troopers from Rogue One, a design chosen by George Lucas on a Rogue One pre-production set visit. And I remember that from back in the Rogue One days. This isn't actually new, but it's definitely really getting around again because it's just more George Lucas contribution stuff from this book. But if you watch The Empire Strikes Back, like General Veers, you could see that he's wearing his just straight up like commander costume that he wears later on. He just kind of puts the armor on. He's like, Imperial OSHA regulations require I wear this and a hard hat.
Armor and safety vests for everybody. Make sure, otherwise we're not moving.
Yeah, and he goes over to the AT-AT and AT-AT if you're of the right generation, and he writes on the sign 1,020 days with no accidents. And then the Battle of Hoth happens. That one goes, and he has to scratch it out and write a 1. But
yes, we're a week without an accident now. This guy that I work with, he was underneath the bridle, which is going down into the hatch of the ship to pick up a load of stuff. We were doing bags of rice, and you got to squunch down to get up underneath there when it's against the wall to hook up the bags. And so you're crawling under this thing that's like, a couple 1,000 pounds on top of you here. If it decides to go, well, he wasn't paying attention with himself. And this is how crazy shit can get. It's like,
yeah,
he turned around to walk, and he basically walked straight into the biggest piece of metal that was hanging down, and he just popped his face. And he popped his face so much that he popped the lens out of his glasses.
Wait, when you say okay, he did.
Yeah, he turned around and hit his face and his head, and it's like, but the helmet didn't do anything for him. It basically popped the helmet off, and his forehead slammed into the steel. And then the rest of it, like,
is he okay?
Wait, he's never coming back probably, because he had to go. They took him out in an ambulance, and because he's like, oh, I'm dizzy and stuff like that. Like, okay, but more than likely he's not coming back.
Dang, that's. When that happens to a guy, do they get like compensated and stuff? Like will he be taken care of?
It depends. If you want to do workers' comp, you can, and more than likely he will. It's just when they do it for our type of profession, is when you file for it, you better make sure damn well you either are disabled or you fake it as good as an actor, because they will send people to park across the street from your house and follow you around to make sure you are disabled.
Right.
The real scary part about that stuff is that's what killed Bob Saget, apparently, the concussion. I mean, he could have internal bleeding, not really know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
it barely hit his head too.
On his skull.
Yeah,
it can cause some sort of hemorrhaging, so it's tough to say, man. Like,
more than likely, that guy's never coming back.
I gotta tell you, the scariest time of my life wasn't the war stuff that we trained for. It was just maintenance on a tank, because I'm like, every 3 seconds I'm like, any of this shit can kill me. Everything on a tank is just made to kill everybody, like who's using it, who's buying it.
Exactly.
Just everything's harsh metal. There's no like,
there's no give
anywhere. No give or take with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I wonder, like, how my brother does it. Like, he's been at sea now for 6 months. On the aircraft carrier, so it's like, oh, but he loves that shit, I guess, man. He says he loves it, and I don't know how, but that's his thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
It sounds fun, but it's probably not. So anyways, to go back to the article, because we do what we want here. As Chang explained in the book's foreword, the Mandalorian's art department continued to follow the guide principles of design established for Star Wars. So what makes a strong design? The guidelines established by George Lucas are simple. Design as if a child could draw it. Design for the silhouette. Right, Rob? Design for the iconic logo. Keep it simple. Give it personality.
Except when it comes to Jar Jar fucking Binks. No one can fucking draw, dude. I mean, nobody can draw that character. Like, all the artwork for that character, even the closest I've seen was Kia Azamiya's episode 1 adaptation, the 2-volume manga. He did a decent Jar Jar Binks, so right, like he was, but it's no one could draw. Yeah, I don't. Look, that's some shit, George's. I say that because TIE fighters are T's and Yoda's a piece of shit. We can all draw a big lump, but
I was going for every letter in the alphabet.
Yeah, the problem with that philosophy is, come the prequels, they started using silhouettes of just like bugs. Here's a dragonfly. Here's a spider. There was that one that has like it's an orb in the center with like it looks like, remember those toys at Toys R Us in the 80s used to pump up full of air and they pop around and move and shit? Some of those fucking Federation droids look like those pop toys.
Yeah, they kind of do actually now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you see those ears on Jar Jar, though, it's him now. I will say.
Look how much effort. Like I believe Doug Chiang believes it, because Doug Chiang's designs are super iconic. The problem is when Lucas gets involved, like with the Make It a Jar Jar, it's just endless fucking revisions to
Jar Jar was primarily designed by Tara Whitlatch.
There was a lot, but everyone had a pass at him. McKay got a pass on him. Everyone, and no one could hit it. So it was like you got Whitlatch who does the crazy anthropological whatever, the fucking the animal fucking
anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic. Well, there's a lot of hyper detailed animal art, and it's just weird because it's like it's supposed to be a human. I don't know. Chewbacca's a simple shape. Everything from most of the stuff from the OT is simple shapes, but in the prequels, I think the stuff George focused on the most falls out of this design philosophy.
Yeah. Mark Hamilton says that silhouette quote is straight out of Disney Imagineers class. I went to one of their drawing classes at Disney World, and that was one of the first things they said in the lesson.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, I stumbled into drawing with silhouettes when I was a kid,
Mhm.
but
You hear that,
when
Chewy? You're easy.
when I
Sorry.
when I started learning 2D animation, I learned from Jerry Bryce, who was an assistant animator on, from Oliver and Company on through The Little Mermaid, you know, and he'd always say things like strong silhouette, strong silhouette, strong silhouette,
Mhm.
and it's funny because then he would work on like, I mean, you could see it in television animation the most. Because in television animation, the idea is if you got a good cartoon when any 5-year-old can draw the character. That's why The Simpsons works and Family Guy and King of the Hill. But Aeon Flux didn't quite take off to mass
Yeah.
Your audio is getting worse. It's
I don't know.
your
I'll
audio.
just leave. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Can you restart, or is that going to mess up your drawing?
I'll try restarting. See what goes. Down.
Okay.
All right. Peace.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I mean,
Darn.
it's very, very crackly. It's very crackly.
Yeah. Right.
On a side note, I was there's this YouTube channel I like by this dude. His name is Mr. Ballin, and he was like a Navy SEAL, and he just like tells like stories, mostly like stuff like retail stories from Reddit and stuff. But it's good. It's kind of like I just put it on in the background when I'm working or doing something, but it's usually pretty like disturbing stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
But I heard this story that was pretty amazing on his show a couple of days ago, and I was like, man, Star Wars needs to steal this in some way for a battle though. And it was about this guy, and his name was, I think it was Odlum or something like that. I can't remember what it was. Robert Emmett Odlum, and he's this dude, right? And he's like, I guess like back in the day, like 1888, 1885-ish times, they would have these big like trampolines, and if there was a fire, you'd have to jump out the window onto the trampoline, and that's how they would save you. But when the fires would happen, people would see the jump, they would get scared, the fire would start engulfing them, and the smoke, they would die. They wouldn't do the jump. So they started like a citywide campaign where they hired this guy, this Robert Odlum, to jump out and show people how you can do it and how it's fun, and it became like a spectacle. And he started making all this money jumping out of buildings onto the trampolines for the fire department as this like public health service sort of program. But then eventually other people started doing it as it looked fun, and people weren't afraid to like do it as it was an effective program. And he started losing money, and his fame was going way down. He's like, I got to do something. So he decides that he's going to jump the Brooklyn Bridge. And his plan is that he's going to jump out of a carriage on the Brooklyn Bridge, and he's going to reveal have a trench coat on. He's going to remove it and have like a whole like swimsuit on, and he's going to like address the crowd and jump into the water from the Brooklyn Bridge. And but bridge jumping had kind of become a big stunt at the time, and so the cops, if they knew he was going to do it, they were going to arrest him. And as people would try to do these kinds of stunts, the cops would just show up and grab you. Yeah. And so what he does is he decides he's not going to take out any ads. He's not going to put up posters. He's not going to do anything to let anybody know that he's going to do this. He just does like a word of mouth. Hey, I'm going to do it. Pass it on. Don't tell the cops. But he knows it's going to get to the cops, but he's hoping for the best. So he goes around. So everybody knows that like on this day at whatever time he's going to be there. And he tells everybody to look for the black carriage. He's going to get out of the black carriage, and then he's going to jump. And so what happens is like on the Brooklyn side, the black carriage comes up. People aren't even sure if he's going to show up. It's a little bit late. And the carriage shows up, and everybody's cheering. They're all happy. He gets out. He takes off the trench coat or whatever and reveals the swimsuit. Cops jump out from everywhere and grab him. And they arrest him, and the crowd's booing. Everybody's just like, oh, what the, you know what I mean? Like, are you serious? And then on the other side of the bridge comes another black carriage.
Oh, he
jumps out. And he jumps out with the
action pass. Play action pass. Yep.
The Queen Amidala style decoy.
Wow.
And he jumps out and he takes off the thing. Everybody's cheering, and he gets up onto the thing and and I guess when you jump, you from that height you have to like put your feet together, put one hand up and one hand down, and that will cut through the water and you won't die. But poor Robert, he jumps, and as he jumps, a gust of wind comes and blows him sideways. And he goes down and he hits the water on his like left side, I think. And he had friends in a boat, and the friends in a boat zoom over, pull him up. They're like, he's like, did I do the jump good? They're like, you did the jump good, Bobby. And then he dies. And then I guess he like all of his ribs, or like the whole side of his ribs cage was busted. His kidneys fell. Everything was just destroyed. And he died, but man, I was like, that guy out Queen Amidala in that move, and that's
when Saddam Hussein body double shit, dude.
it's really smart. I really liked it. I really liked the old ruse there, and it would be cool. It would be cool to like see that with Star Wars at some point or something like that.
Oh, like I have a friend too who was a SEAL. Back in the day, and he was like, he's the one who told me how they got Noriega out of Panama, because I guess he was there, and he ended up getting into a tree and got blasted out of a tree, and so he ended up getting injured that way and getting out of the
Noriega or your friend?
My friend. He was in a tree because they were basically, they parked and he was outside, I guess, the compound where Noriega was hiding out, and then they started doing the psychosomatic shit for him. So they basically pulled up and they got the loudest speaker that they could with the most wattage, and they just played the Black Album from Metallica over and over and over again until he gave up.
So wait, he gave up? Hours. That was just 1991. I mean, that's what we were all doing.
Exactly.
What's the fucking big deal?
I don't know. Apparently he does not like metal.
Maybe like, never mind. He's like, I'm more of a Nirvana man myself. I don't know. Maybe.
I think you get more metal Filipinos than you do those guys.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Mr. Ballin. It's a great channel. I really like it a lot. Like, so many good stories on there.
Yeah, I wish I could be a better storyteller. I'm just not good at it.
Yeah, me either. But it's a great channel to put on, like while you're washing the dishes, or you're like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I love it. Yeah, an ex-girlfriend of mine, we were talking. She's like, "Hey, I think you should check this out. He's great." And I was like, "Okay."
I listened to was it Rob Layfield? He has Robservations. That's a good one too.
Yeah. Rob is a pretty nice dude, gotta say. I don't know him like personally or anything like that, but just my interactions with him over the years, he's always been a very nice dude.
Yeah, I like that guy.
Remember our Rob? Remember our Observations? They got crackly, and we don't know what happened to him. He started doing the crackle. He got hooked on the crackle.
It's like, there are these member berries of Rob, and it goes to the inside of my crackles.
He's hitting the crackle pipe right now. I think really hard. We lost him, you guys. I think we lost him. He's like
on the floor.
Yeah. But when it comes to like to go a little bit back to the original topic that we had in mind here, like when it comes to Grogu, it's like I think he's a character who could end up ultimately like being multi-generational in the story of Star Wars, in terms of that he gets to start in the prequel era.
So Harry Potter-ish, we're talking.
Well, in that,
in a way where you kind of grow. Some kids grow up with it, and then there's us who see it.
Oh, that for sure. But I mean in terms of like he's born in the prequel era, and then he really comes to prominence in the post Return of the Jedi era, and he's going to live another 700 years probably. Hey, how you hitting that crackle pipe still?
He dropped the lighter. Now he's looking for his...
No, now I play Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm invoking the devil now.
Oh, yeah. Do you guys know if you play with fire, you will get burned?
Oh,
Really?
I think that's what Rob
Are you
Rob has this really great book about
shitting
like the
me?
Satanic Panic, or a Satanic Panic era artifact, I should say, and it has like a subtitle, and it's like, if you play with fire, you're gonna get burned. But
yeah.
Rob, you were missed by Santa. Santa missed you.
Aw.
But
He misspelled my name. He says Sketch Raft.
you're better than Sketch Shaft. That's what I call you when you're a dickhead.
Jeff.
Shut your mouth.
Oh man, Grogu had an accident.
Yeah, well, yeah. I wanted to name him Dookie because we had Dooku, and I thought Dookie would be funny because he could be Dooku's kid, Dooku and Yaddle, and that's they turned me down.
So let me
Kathleen.
ask you this
Kathleen turned me down.
question for either for George Lucas or for Rob. When it comes to like silhouettes in art, what we were kind of talking about a minute ago, and like
Sure.
you mentioned, like you don't think that Jar Jar is a very effective silhouette, but do you think that overall the majority of the Star Wars characters in the George Lucas side of things were pretty well done in that front? Like, does he practice what he preaches? Do you think overall, like, is that mostly true?
In the in the original trilogy, yeah. Yeah.
But
Matter of
not
fact,
in the prequels?
even in the Phantom Menace, it's fairly consistent until you get to the Nemodians and the Gungans.
Mhm.
And the Gungans are only discernible because when you look at the concept art for the Nemodians, they have long noses and they have no ears. And the
Yeah.
Gungans have long noses, but they have big ears. Like
Right.
it's a real. I find that the thing that he was the most involved in was these two CGI races, and I wonder if that sort of thing, is when you're trying to really get somewhere with something. Sometimes you get in the way of where the art wants you to go. If
Yeah.
that does that make any sense? You can
It
kind
does.
of
No, that
see
makes
this
sense,
in
yeah.
in action on the Attack of the Clones making of when there's that line Yoda says. It's not a design thing, but it's the same philosophy. When Yoda says begun the Clone Wars has, and this poor guy is like stuck animating that thing for like what feels like 12 weeks. It's probably like 2 days, but just in the difference in the performance is so minute. You're like, what are you waiting? There's nothing like Frank Oz would have just done it in like one or two takes, and that would have been it if it were a puppet. But he's just over here really stuck on something for some reason. But yeah, that's what I feel the design of those two, because it's funny, the Nemodians go through all that design work with the gold and the ornate, and they design the battle droids to look like them. That's why they have long noses. I mean, why do the battle droids sort of look like Gungans with no ears?
Yeah.
And if you look at their
Yeah.
little antennas on the back folded down, they kind of look more like Gungans than they look like
But
Nemodians. It's
the,
strange
uh,
to see.
Well, but he does rectify it by making the Geonosians are what they're really based on, and the Geonosians are the ones who make it. Now the Nemodians.
Sure, but no one cares by then. No one like by that
Well-
at that point, the difference between a Genosian and a Nemodian and a Gungan, by the way, they all end up with ends. It's indiscernible between the three. It's a stone's throw. People to the point where when I start thinking about all that stuff, like the only ones that really stand out is Darth Maul and Watto and the Kaminoans, because they have the long necks, super long
Yeah.
necks, and the big, like, the gray alien look is a perfect fucking thing with the long neck, right? But then he gets weird because he puts a was it Yariel Poof, right?
Oh yeah.
Yariel Poof. This is the names that I fucking remember. All right, I can't remember.
No. I'm right there with you. That one sticks in my brain too.
But he has a long neck and a head, and it's just weird. So I think that the problem with Star Wars is that there's so many aliens, right? Like you can't do a strong silhouette when you need to fill a whole cantina full up of shit. You just need someone start making the puppets, However, any race of note, a Yoda, an Ewok, a Wookiee, has to follow and adhere to the silhouette. And I think the Gungan, Nemodian, Kaminoan thing, it's all one big blur, man. Like if you take the color out of it, and you take the performances, and you just squint your eyes. The trick you always want to do is take your eyes and squint right when the hairs start to touch. That is the level of detail that you will that most people will imprint or memorize. So if you're ever sketching like a landscape, like if you ever just want to go sketching and you're like, how do I put all this detail that you see in the world down? Just squint your eyes till the hairs start to meet, and that's all you need to capture. And it will just compress information down super fast. And they, by the way, this is all taught at the Pasadena School of Art and Design and Cal Arts and shit. They, you know, some of us just learned it the hard way, but they know this. And Doug Chain does that. That's why his 12 initial paintings for the Phantom Menace are they're right at the Macquarie School of Design, and they're so iconic.
Yeah.
The Pod Racer's iconic. The N1 Starfighter's iconic. You know, and even Darth Maul's ship is iconic. What's not all the battle droid tanks are pretty good. The battle droids are iconic, but those fucking aliens, man, there's too many hands, too many cooks in the kitchen. You know, I feel.
Yeah. I feel that where that kind of thing fails is that design from Attack of the Clones that was used in Book of Boba for the giant robot. Oh, it's cool that it's cool that an old design got a chance to be in the show. I don't like those giant robots. I don't think that they actually looked very good, and I didn't think that they looked very good. I thought the art book, it was good art, but I just felt like it missed the Star Wars mark. It didn't really have like a.
So you talking about the ones with the cannons at the end in the last episode, or are you talking about the one with the spinning?
The big force field droids that they have to fight.
All right, the Terminator looking ones. The problem is they're in the wrong environment. They're in again 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, like
no, they were like supersized destroyer droids, right? I'm sorry, Rob.
Well, they're brightly lit, and they have a blue bubble around them, so you can't they're texturing any menacing. Like if you take those things and you that whole sequence had taken place at night.
Yeah.
You know, and those bubbles had been lit up at night and they're crackling and like it started to rain. Like, what if the water had come back during that fight? Right. And like it's sizzling with the fucking, and you got that red eye, and then they knock it out, and then you have this metal shiny thing with the red eye in the rain. It would all work.
Yeah.
So there's again what you also design things not just so they have a shape and a silhouette, but then you think, what is the tone and the mood? What environment do they go into? You know, you could put an AT-AT in every environment, but the AT-AT really stands out on Hoth. When the AT-AT's on Endor, you're like, oh, there was an AT-AT. It doesn't stand out as much because it wasn't designed for that environment. You know?
But what I was gonna say was, I was like, it's not really. I was like, you know what? The AT-AT's what came to mind though. I personally do feel like for the most part, AT-ATs do look good in every environment for the most part though. Like when you see them on Hoth and you see them on
it's excellently designed.
And I was like, you know what? I was like, it's not really fair to go and be like, you know what? You didn't make your TV show as good as The Empire Strikes Back. Like, there's a part of me like, I see how that's unfair. But
a lot of those battle droids were taken after like bug shapes and shit. Like they were like trying to. This is why when people go, man, Dune's great. Look at the designs of ship. I did a lot of shit in fucking Attack of the Clones. Like,
those
got giant.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They got giant butterfly wings and shit, you know, like, you know, and whatever was in Attack of the Clones was in Avatar. So I've seen all this before. I think, again, the I had something and I forgot about it, but the battle, all of the droids, the droidicas, whether they were used or not, were sort of meant to invoke, you know, the weird bulbous shapes with multiple limbs, right? Spider legs, scorpion arms, you know.
When in the Phantom Menace, when they came up against that the first time, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and then they feed it down the hallway.
Yeah.
With them using the Force to run, but then it's like that's the only time we've ever seen them use the Force to run. And at the end of the movie, after a few watches, of course, and so now it was nitpicking, of course, but it's like, how did he not use? Why didn't you use the Force to run? You would have beat those little laser shields.
Bro, you could have used
Actually, it's because it would have exhausted him, and he would not have been able to defeat Darth Maul.
You could have picked up Anakin in the desert and just super ran to the ship. You know, there's all sorts of shit. Look, it's one of those things when you start adding powers, you better really think it through. Right? Yeah. You better
that's the only time we've ever seen him run. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, running sucks though, dude. Do you like running? I don't.
No, I hate it, and I haven't ran in 20 years, and I can't believe I'm dreaming about it. That's fucking ridiculous. You know?
That'll teach you. Uh-oh. We lost Jesse. It's Jesse's girl. He's back.
I'm back.
So, Star Wars and Games All. Why has no one ever built an Iron Giant in Star Wars? If it's not a giant death ball, it's armies of normal-sized soldiers. Yeah, and
You mean it's like a regular robot? That's a good question. Why haven't they done a giant regular humanoid robot?
yeah.
Isn't the
Probably-
those? I'm sorry, those
Does it look like-
those in Jedi Fallen Order, those protector droids. Those are the closest thing that look like a person droid that you have to fight.
Except we just sort of got Power Rangers with the mods, and do we really want to invoke Megazords too? Like,
Yeah?
Not really.
Yeah? Actually, I kind of
do.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I mean, the cynic in me is just like, maybe they don't really make good toys, and maybe there's not a lot of, maybe there's not like a great idea and no incentive to merchandise giant Star Wars robots.
Well, they've humanized all the protocol droids. To do a giant one would probably look ridiculous when you got a little one. So you don't want to humanize these things. And with the Iron Giant, you're humanizing a robot. You know, you're giving it a soul.
In my head right now, when I'm imagining Star Wars doing it, I see like sort of like AT-AT motifs put onto like a gorilla, and then I remembered that they did that in The Last Jedi with the gorilla walkers, and I'm like I could kind of see where maybe it was almost going to go that way, but then it really kind of became a little bit more of just a regular AT-AT.
If they were going to do it, they would have to give it a face like a Kylo Ren face or something. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. The worst version of this, the worst use of this sort of way of developing things, and all of Star Wars, in my opinion, has been the design of Snoke. Snoke is the most irrelevant design I've ever seen in a Star Wars film. It is unrecognizable, pointless, goes nowhere, invokes neither human nor alien, nor corpse, nor toddler, nor robot. It is the worst design I've ever seen in Star Wars.
More different strokes.
You know?
Yeah, it does kind of feel like what are we gonna do? Well, he's a really big, tall man, and he's falling apart. It's like
if the Gungans and the Emodians are too many decisions kind of being made, like everyone's kind of like jumping in to make a decision, you know. Snoke is what happens when nobody wants to make a decision.
Yeah. I did like that they at one point they were like, let's imagine Snoke used to be hot. Let's make him like a really hot dude and then fucking make him fall apart. Like that's where I was like, well, that's kind of fun. Like, I kind of like what they're doing there, because then they could have done this thing where like, oh, here's what he used to look like, and he looked like this like giant vampire Lestat. You know what I mean? Kind of being, and you're like,
but then that would be something. You know, that would actually be something. Although, what was it? The Fly, when his parts start falling off and shit. Like,
oh yeah.
I love the fingernails go. Oh my god, the fingernails go.
Yeah, that really fucked me up when I was a kid. That movie, man.
Yeah, that movie was so good. It was just such a good movie. I can't lie. The second movie's shit, but I kind of like it too. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, he's like, I'm the son of the Fly, and I hit puberty or something.
For it in that one too. They didn't like hold back. They kind of went for it in that. So
yeah, it wasn't good though. But I still like it.
I like Critters 2 better than Critters 1, but I'm in the minority. So.
You know what? I'm going to say for the first two Critters are both good. The first two Critters are good. I don't have any problems with the first two Critters.
Not as good as Ghoulies, bro.
They're all better than Ghoulies.
Ghoulies 1's fun, though. Ghoulies 1's fun. You know, like Ghoulies?
And Puppet Master with the suitcase of dolls, man.
No,
I love that movie.
No.
Puppet Master.
I'm
not Red Letter Media need to hang out, Jazzy.
I'm not going to lie. The Ghoulies party ruined parties for me. I never went to a party and had a good time, because I was just always like, you know, that Ghoulies party was fucking cool. Everybody's got like mom jeans on. They're fucking drinking. Everybody's having a great time. They're like, you know what? Let's go worship the devil. Like, yeah. And they just go do it. It was like crazy. It was like, what? I was like, man, parties are nuts. And then I went to a party.
One thing this show is consistent for is advocating for Satanism. We even have Satan in our chats.
Star Wars Satan is usually here, along with the antithesis Star Wars Santa. But it's a good
is he though? Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Right? Is he?
He's very
Okay.
good.
All right.
Munchies. I rented Munchies a couple times. I'm not gonna lie. I rented Munchies more than
Nice.
once.
Jesus,
Just
yeah.
forgot about that till
Yeah.
now.
Munchies was. I don't even know if Munchies got a theatrical release. I think it might have
No,
been.
it's when you're bored at Blockbuster and you're in that back section because all the new rentals are gone and you're trying to find
Oh.
something. Yeah.
Munchies is even before Blockbuster though. Munchies was like when we were just mom and pop places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when it first hit. I mean, like and that's what tripped me out was like as a kid, I really thought I was somebody who was up on film. If a movie was coming out, I knew the release date. Like I knew, I'm not even joking. I knew the release date. I know who produced it. Like I knew everything about it. And then here's Munchies. I'm like, how did this movie get by me? What is this?
You've been
Munchies?
training for this job your whole life, Jason. haven't you?
Pretty much.
And if they're gonna remake a good B science fiction movie, I want them to do "I Come in Peace" again.
I Come in Peace. I don't even remember what happens in I Come in Peace at this point.
It's Dolph Lundgren fighting an alien who likes to stick that little needle thing in your brain and suck out your juices.
Yeah, you know, we need Dolph. Is Dolph still acting? Because we need him in Mando. They need to
Yeah,
bring
he
him
He
was
was
in.
in
in
Rocky
Aquaman.
too.
He was an Aquaman. He's going to be in
He's in
the
Aquaman.
same one too.
Oh, was it really?
Remember?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was a king of one of the races there under the water.
Everybody's gonna want to kill me, but I tried to watch Aquaman, and I just emotionally and visually disconnected from it about midway. I just couldn't remember.
I'm gonna say something that's unpopular here,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like every time I've had, because I had to sit through Aquaman, would be one of those things that played on the airplanes every fucking time you got in one. In that particular year, I had to do a lot of traveling because we had deaths in the family, and every time I look over and see that fucking thing playing, I'm like, this is what happens when you watch the prequels and you're like, I know how to take this one step further.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really feels like the ideology of specifically episodes 1 and 2, and you're like, let's also keep the camera always moving, you know, as if it were like the demo when in Soul Calibur's in demo mode, and it keeps swooping around the fucking arena like the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's like, just stop moving the camera.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember who made it. I've referenced it before on the
James
show.
Wan.
No. I need to find it. But somebody did a video, and it was about background use in Akira Kurosawa, and about how he uses fields on fire and seasons and things to always have the background evoking something in frame, and the camera movements also like play into the rhythm of that. And then that person in their video then goes over to the Avengers, and it's like the Avengers in this room, and the camera's like spinning around for no fucking reason. It's like there's no reason for the motion in frame for what they're talking about, or any reason for it to be doing what it's doing. And I was like, wow, this is so
yeah. But to be fair, let's like the thing about Kurosawa that people often forget is the dude just was meticulously over budget. I mean, the two most expensive films that Toho had made in 1955 was Godzilla and The Seven Samurai, and they were going to go bankrupt. Like if those films hadn't done well, that whole company dies. There's no Godzilla. Like you got to understand. Like so, it's great that Kurosawa did all these things, but at the same time, like it wasn't exactly. It wasn't financially sound all the time too, So.
I think George Lucas was coming at the direction in that way from the point of view of, if we're just going to have somebody, who has to say like, welcome, Senator Amidala, what have you ascertained from your latest findings or some bullshit like that, then what he does is he's like, okay, we're going to have him say that. They have to say it as part of it. It plays into the setup of the story, but we're going to tilt the camera and you're going to see the costumes and the people. We're not going to waste time. We're going to do two things at once. That's what George Lucas is thinking. That's what he's trying to do, I think. But in the end, what he ends up doing is that you don't pay attention to what they're saying, which is important, because you're watching the camera pan around and you're looking at the beautiful costumes and the pageantry of Star Wars. And it's only if you are somebody who's willing to watch it over and over again, like I am, that it works on both levels for you. And I think your average consumer ends up kind of going like, oh, I don't know why this is important. I don't know why any of this matters. I wasn't listening. That's
Yeah,
what
I
I
couldn't
noticed.
imagine if we were watching Black Panther and they're all in the throne room and the camera's always subtly trucking in.
Yeah,
Like that's the one thing about that move. I'm just like every time I'm like in the film, I'm like, how many of these shots they work when it's just Liam Neeson looking at the camera in the right way? But every time it's the slow trucking thing, I'm like, just fucking stop with this. Like, I
slow
get what you're
trucking.
doing, but
Slow
yeah. Slow truck. That's what they
But
will
what
call a
I
truck in, but yeah, it's like
but,
it's not a dolly zoom. It's a slow, you know, that's what they called it in storyboarding class, a truck in.
but unlike Joss Whedon in the Avengers, for instance, George Lucas does telegraph things in the background. He does set the backgrounds to the mood of what's going on, and like there is some forethought to it that I don't think he gets credit for. I think people just think they just put up images on there, but he'll in Revenge of the Sith. Some of my favorite backgrounds in Star Wars are on Coruscant back there, and you see like kind of like the cloudiness and
Yeah, that's what I was just
how
gonna
it's
say.
used.
Like when she gets off on the landing platform and the ship's sitting there, and then you see all the traffic in the background, and you can hear the sound. It's like that was really dope. I really like that
Yeah,
part.
yeah. Lucas, for as many things as he did that were like tens, he would do like a 3, a 10, a 3 in terms of it being really good and really like, oh, come on, dude. And but he did make those movies for practically nothing, and that's why I only drink Pepsi Zero Sugar, because they gave George Lucas $1 bajillion to direct all 3, make sure that we got the Star Wars movies that we didn't want,
Now they want to
the
give
Star Wars
Lucasfilm
movies we
a
deserve.
quarter of
Excuse
a.
me. I'm cutting an ad right now for Pepsi trying to get $1 billion. Sorry, go on, Rob.
Now they want to fund Bryce Dallas Howard like $250,000 just to direct the Mando.
Yeah.
Or maybe they could pay to keep people away from films. Like Rian.
It would be cool if like Baby Yoda showed up like on the day that Bryce Dallas Howard is like directing, and he just like walks. He's all, "What's up, Opie?" Hits the script out of her hand, just like walks over and sits down because he's a little fucking starlet now. That'd be great. I wish he was
Pepsi
real.
wanted me to name Grogu Surge.
Thanks,
Surge.
man. Now get yourself one.
Yeah.
We didn't have Surge in Southern California, the soda, but when I went to Celebration, they were giving Pepsi, which is they're giving out free soda. They're like, here, drink all the free soda you want, all the Star Wars cans and stuff. And they had the Surge Qui-Gon, I think it was Qui-Gon Jinn can. And so I had to take it back with me to California. I'm like, I gotta add this to the collection of all this rare Star Wars stuff that they're going to stop making someday again. They stopped making it one time, and they're going to stop making it again someday.
I wanted to name him Mr. Pibb, but he's a Coke product.
But when they released Dirge, I just thought of Surge, and I was like, oh, fuck this guy. I love Gendy Tartakovsky. I wish they would give him another chance to do something with Star Wars. I think he's fantastic, but God, Dirge sucks.
Mad Max Bikers is the Nick gang. It could work. It's just it was a bad design.
It reminded me of this show Teen Mom. My wife would watch that in the beginning when it first came out, and one of the dads that was like still there helping to raise the kid or whatever. Like he I think it's when the PlayStation 2 or something came out. One of those, and he's just like going on to his wife, "Babe, you don't understand. It's the last one. They're never gonna make any more. They're not gonna make any more. I gotta get it now. I gotta go get it now."
Is that clipped everywhere as a meme now?
It was, but then now 10 years later, he's actually probably the best parent on that show.
Oh, okay.
And he turns out to be the nicest guy, the best parent, and the most grounded out of all of them.
This is the most about Teen Mom I ever want to know.
That's all you need to know.
I was a teen
The rest
mom.
is crap.
Not a joke. No, I had a teen mom. They're not very good at their jobs. I'll tell you that much.
All my mom did was remind me about how I ruined her life, and she didn't do it directly. She would go, "Never have kids when you're teen. Just never. You don't do it until you're 18. You got to be out of high school. Don't ruin your life." And I'm like, I ruined your life.
Wow. That's good to hear.
Yeah, it was really real productive.
And how many of our listeners and friends here have the Razor Crest, man? Like
was it Was it Star Wars in
Jesse,
game?
you're the only one who didn't buy one, right?
I didn't buy one either.
Well, I'm still trying to get an Xbox. Every time we get in the queue, and my
Jason-
wife tries to get one, I can never get it.
So
you got to go through Best Buy, bro. It's the easiest way.
She does, and she still can't get through to it.
On the phone?
Maybe not on the phone.
That's how I got my PS5 the day of, dude. Took me 6 hours, but the phone is a different way in than the PC. Just letting you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But we're millennials and we don't know how to use the phone. Sorry.
Me, that's all they know how to fucking use.
No,
They stop we don't even, it's so much to the point we don't even call it
it
software anymore. Everything's a fucking app, right? You're like, oh, my Windows app. What do you app? All right.
Yeah.
Got to roll my windows down. There's an app for that.
If you use the term software, they look at you like you're fucking super old, bro.
Yeah. You're all can I want to see my floppy disk? They're like, what are you talking about, you creep? But
Let's see if the software matches the hardware.
I hope someday Lucasfilm does a movie or a series focused on a gray Jedi. As much as I like the dual aspect of Jedi and Sith, I am intrigued to see a middle of the road Ronin type character. See, as a George Lucas guy, as a tech guy and a George Lucas guy, I don't really buy into the concept.
I don't literally have a book called The Ronin that does this. I just
recommend it. Recommend it.
It's called Star Wars Ronin, and even though it's not continuity, by the way, none of it is. Special editions prove that. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
but that's exactly what you're dealing with. Yeah.
But George, the concept of the Force that George Lucas puts forth is that essentially you have to have balance, and if you don't have balance, then you're going to teeter one way or the other. And balance doesn't mean good or evil. Balance is different in the George Lucas way, but you will eventually fall out of balance and you will become totally evil. And being balanced in the George Lucas way just means that you are just good. Good is balance. Out of balance is bad. And so if you were to go gray, you're literally like this, and you will fall. And
you gotta have the sweet and you gotta have the sour. You know, you gotta have both. Or
hey, jabroni,
good garlic sauce. That really helps.
Jedis.
And you need a lot of sriracha.
I was
hungry.
I was going to say the other day, Eric, you should join us one of these days whenever you want to hang out, dude. But
your mouth because the rock said.
I love when the Iron Sheik calls.
What you say.
I love when the Iron Sheik calls people jabronis. It always makes me laugh.
I just know he does it with a rolling R, which I really appreciate.
And remember when he showed up to Cyndi Lauper's car wash? God, that was a good day. That was just a great day. But yeah. Well, I was gonna talk about something in here, but but we're talking about balance and stuff like that, and like the gray Jedi concept. It would require, I guess, by the end of it, that I think you could do it and you could play with it in a deeper way if you ended up going with at the end they atone for whatever has them sort of gray, what has them doing bad and good stuff.
Is it like their version of Quantum Leap?
No, that's not what I mean. I'm saying that if you like when you start off Mando, let's just start off the Mandalorian series. He's a very gray character. He's actually just doing what he has to do to get by. He's just he's not necessarily evil on purpose. But he's also not necessarily good. He makes his own people very angry with them and stuff like that. And then, but by the end of the season, he does come and he does basically become good. Essentially, even though he's going with the cult, what the cult wants and desires, he's still going about it in the right way. So it does work out that way. And in a strange way, Ahsoka Tano is kind of like their opportunity to sort of play with that if they wanted to.
Yeah, I would think so.
But I also think that it she is too loved by Filoni for them to do anything that outrageous with the character, or to really take her into like that different of a place. She's essentially just gonna really just be a Jedi by proxy, not aligned to any kind of dogma, but was totally raised by that dogma and is going to just adhere to it. That's what I think they're gonna do. But I would love to see if they did something like that with her, at least for a time. I mean, like when we have that era after the Order 66, there's a lot of stuff that they could have done, but Rebels kind of makes it where now we know she's just the same person. So Star Wars in Game says I could get behind that, Jason. I just think it's a theme that would sell well in this day and age. Yeah. And that's where you kind of like have the opportunity with like Grogu as he grows up. Right? Mm-hmm. He's going to have all of the opportunity to use all of those mystical force powers and that kind of jazz, but he's going to go and become a Mandalorian. He's going to go hard on the attachment, and in a weird way, they're sort of almost setting it up where I don't believe he'll go to the dark side, but if you play by George Lucas's rules, how does he not?
You know. What I want is him to go and find all of his species and start Minch Squadron. Mm-hmm. And it's just all in these little bubble ships and they just all fly around. You know,
Disney Plus is Minch, please. Yeah, that'd be great.
It's too easy, that one.
No, Minch, please. Come on. It could have like a logo like we have right here with the Making Star Wars little logo that you have. It'd be great. Little kids, you know, maybe it'll be that Young Jedi series. Someone in the comments, I meant to screen cap it and I didn't. Someone in the comments was talking about our video yesterday, and they were like, you know, on one hand, when I hear grammar and rodeo, they're like, I think of Yoda, and they're like, do you think, you know, basically implying that maybe that title is alluding to Yoda, and it is the high
he speaks.
Yeah, that is kind of a grammar rodeo, isn't it?
Some of us. I was saying, who's the Jedi? Who's the teacher, the Coach Cooper that's going to hang out with these kids? Because even in Stranger Things, they have the cop and they have Winona Ryder, right? They got
yeah.
So is it Yoda that does that? You know. Is Yoda the one that's caretaking these dudes around? I don't know.
Yeah, I like I said, if they go that Harry Potter route, then you probably do use Yoda as your not Gandalf, Dumbledore. You know, you use him as your Dumbledore, right?
That. I don't know why. It's been like 20-something years. I've never thought of that. Like,
really?
I like. Yeah.
When
I don't have kids, Jason.
I went to see one of the Harry Potter movies, and it was maybe like the third one, and I was a bit buzzed. We were like leaving like a restaurant. We had drank a bunch. We're like, let's go see Harry Potter. We didn't see that. Like, okay, and walk up, and there was still a line, and there were all these people dressed up, and I'm like, hey, what's up, Dumbledorks? Like a fucking asshole. Like I was like, well, I'm such an asshole.
It's such a Triumph the dog thing to say, right?
But it was.
What's up, Dumbledorks?
Yeah. That's pure Triumph right there. Yeah.
It was. Did you ever see when Triumph went to the line for one of the prequels?
Yes, with Spock. Yeah,
it was so funny. Yeah,
wait till you watch Fantastic Beasts and Where to Hump Them.
Jermaine Lucier, who used to write for Slash Film and writes for like all these big trades today, he's in that. Like he's one of the guys who gets interviewed by Triumph. That's pretty funny. Or he's right there. Yeah, but I kind of miss when we had funny things on TV like that. I really don't think that there's anything.
To be honest, there wasn't. It was really just that though. There wasn't a lot of that. Like, it's a rarity, you know.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at the past with rose tinted glasses, maybe. But
I was told I was a moron for watching Conan and Brian. But there you go.
Yeah, he was my favorite one. Yeah. Although when he went over to Yeah, I hate Jay Leno. I always hated Jay Leno. And then when he came back, I was like, "Fuck you, Jay Leno, you piece of shit." I hate that guy.
You know, he's
Guy
never
sucks.
cashed one of his paychecks from being on the Tonight Show.
Why?
Uh, Apparently, because he's got so many cars and all this stuff that are worth millions and millions of dollars that uh, he doesn't. He made something like he donates that to charity or whatever, but he's never
Well,
cashed it for himself.
that's while that's nice. That
And take
that
these
doesn't
money
make an
and give it away.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he would buy a car back then in the '90s or '80s, and for $100,000 or something, and they called him crazy, and then now it's worth 14 million. So,
Oh right.
That's why I hired Stuttering John.
and that Peterson Museum is basically those are all his cars at that Peterson Museum. Those are all his.
Yeah, but he hired a guy who can't say Nicolas Cage properly. All right, so
true,
let's just be honest. He's not a genius.
Oh no, I'm not saying it is.
Yeah. No, he would steal a lot of bits from the Howard Stern show. It was a pretty
Literally,
common
they're
thing.
asking. Yeah. They hired
mean-
John to go do the thing. That,
they had John. There would just be like there would just be like every now and then, it felt like every so often you would just have something where like, oh, now they're stealing this from us. But anyways, yeah,
Yeah,
I was a
EW
Letterman. I was a Letterman Conan O'Brien guy growing up. Anyways, yeah.
Fluffy, as in Gabriel Iglesias. Fluffy, I'm assuming.
Fluffy has a giant garage full of VW buses.
Yeah, my neighbor over here has got what's called the 18 window or 16 window Volkswagen bus.
Yeah, people say how much?
They're usually, if they're done and they look nice and they're operating, anywhere from 15 to 30,000 bucks, maybe even more.
That's pretty cool. I mean, but have you ever heard of a Prius about $14,000, 2015?
Yeah, man, those are big up for sale too. You know? That's why they're stealing. That's why you can't have one of those things in our town, because they're going to come steal your catalytic converter.
Dude, that's
That's a big
actually
thing.
that's a big problem where I'm at too.
Yeah,
I'm like
'cause
super afraid
they have
of
the
that
most
happening.
expensive catalytic converter to replace. A Prius does,
Yeah,
and so you just get people to literally just roll up to your house when you're not there, or even if you are there, and they just jack up the car, bring the torch out, cut it off, take off.
yep.
that's what I do on my days off now.
George
Saturday
Lucas. George Lucas stole my catalytic converter. That's going to be our next episode.
And he takes it to recycle.
That I'm not going home. So
So ridiculous.
it's a bad idea getting married and having another kid. What was I thinking?
You weren't, George.
Yeah,
You weren't.
no attachments. No attachments. That's why I put that in there. No attachments, George. No attachments.
Yeah. I mean, if Spider-Man didn't have any, he'd be better off. Superman, he'd be better off too. But it's also where they find their humanity. And that's what we always have to remember.
Tell that to Jack Burton.
Mhm.
Oh,
You
I
mean
saw
gonna
that.
kiss her goodbye, Jack? No.
no, there was
Yeah.
a picture somebody drew, and it was like all these different villains and heroes. For it's like who would survive out of all these people, and it was like Jack Burton.
Yeah. I could get behind that. Yeah, I wouldn't earlier when Rob mentioned the Nick 2 gang and like, Mad Max and like Road Warrior and stuff. I'm like, yeah, they really need to pull on those threads,
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
Tatooine and that, I mean, it's just like so set up for it, and it would be just such a
That's
good.
what I thought Boba Fett was gonna be. It was like Mad Max, cool, fucking like that giant fire with the guitar axe dude. What was that guitar axe guy on Fury Road with the
Yeah.
music?
Yeah.
Like all that shit. Like that was gonna be that. I didn't know it was gonna be fucking Bantha, go back to your home in the Dune ways. Like fucking stop talking to. Yeah,
Nick
like,
Babe.
not that. It's just that he's talking to the fucking things. Like they understand what he's saying. I don't know, man. Like you just let the if you could hear what he's saying, he'd be like, "Why did you let my mother die?" And then you put another bantha up on the same ridge right after they killed him. Like, you don't even care
they're
about
one
us.
scene away from him yelling at clouds.
They're all your people use us as Bantha shields. We're living things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it when I watched I put Book of Boba on the other day while I was working and doing stuff, had it playing in the background, and I was like looking at like what it was, and I guess in hindsight, it's easier to look at what they got and then go, here's how you could have made it better after they've done it. It's like that's easy. It's harder to come up with something and then make it better. But I was like, this has so many vibes of like the old 80s, like 70s Buck Rogers TV show, Buck Rogers in the 25th century or whatever it was called. And it has so many of those vibes, especially like when they go to that place. I was like, they really just should have made it straight up like that show. And we were talking about how we were watching what was it called? Book of Boba Fett 1985 by the Oral
The
Knots.
Oral Knots thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I like this would have been better. And I was thinking, the more I thought about it, I was like, they just should have really went full 80s Buck Rogers with it. And it would have allowed them to have dealt with the crime aspects without expecting to find a severed horse's head next to somebody in a bed, because you can't go that far in Star Wars. I understand that to some extent where there is a line, but that would have allowed them to really superficially deal with it. And the more I thought about it, I was like, that's what's like really important, is that they have to like you have to believe like in the fairy tale to some extent, that it can't cross the line. Like I know most Star Wars, I'm not going to find the severed horse head. There's something about the fabric of the construction of the stories that you don't expect that to happen in The Empire Strikes Back. There's no point in time where that would be a reasonable, rational expectation, right?
Right.
And even though you do see a dead Tauntaun from the cutscene, and you're like, why is there a fucking dead, bloody Tauntaun right there? What are these? Is there a serial killer in Echo Base? That's what I think every time I see it. But anyways, but what they ended up doing was they just like rode that weird line where the show, more I watch it, I like it, but it doesn't know what it is. It doesn't understand itself. And that's just a component of the creators not understanding a coherent vision together, which is what we kind of keep saying. But hey, it's
We're
Johnny
1 week
boy.
out from new Boba Fett, and we still, it's not the fact that we have the same look, it's not like you're watching it get newfound experiences on how they could have did this or that. It's the same things we had when it came out. It's not that deep, like it's a surface level show. And if people think surface level stuff's good enough, then there you go. That's for you. For me, I'm not expecting everything to be fucking, Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad or whatever. I'm saying if it's dumber than Game of Thrones season 8, you got problems. Okay? Because Game of Thrones season 8 is way better than this Boba Fett show. Like, way better.
Yeah.
Way better. It's not even remotely close, guys. Not even remotely. It gets leagues. And so that's what I'm saying. And so when I hear things like, but if you watch it with the kid, I'm like, I gotta have kids now to watch it. It's kind of like in high school, they had a Superman show, The Adventures of Lois and Clark. You imagine, I didn't see anyone going, hey, it's pretty good for an ABC rom-com. No, it's forgettable. Got canceled quick. The people on that show won't get the fuck off Twitter. It is pointless. It goes nowhere. It's disposable.
It doesn't even catch my son's attention. He barely watches it. I don't even think he's seen an entire episode yet.
Of Book of Boba?
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I do not agree with Johnny at all. I don't want to get canceled again, because I want to cancel Johnny because he believes in Ukraine unity before the Battle of Yavin. I do not. I want Ukraine unity now, not before the Battle of Yavin, like Johnny. And Johnny, I think you're a real piece of shit for saying that, because that was a long time ago. Sorry, I had to do it. But
all I hear is Bob Euchre. Baseball.
Baseball.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of TP Talk.
Yeah.
I just remember when he was on the WWF for a while. That was the best.
I just remember when he kind of was sort of abusive to Wesley.
My buddy Brandon, he did home repair for Euchre like a couple years ago. You go, hey, you know this guy? He's got gray hair. I'm like, Bob Euchre. I just said it. Bob Euchre. He's like, yeah, that guy. Now, how dumb am I or how good am I? I do not know, right?
Yeah.
Either way,
that
was my
good shot.
Yeah, it was a good. Look, it's a 1 in whatever shot it is, but yeah, I don't know math, but.
Well, that's what you could. That's what you could put on your patch there.
I'm like, did he wear a robe the whole time? He's like, he did.
Oh.
How great is that? Great is that? Ultra tan, white hair, full on robe. That's the life, man.
I'm not going to show it because I didn't ask them if it was okay. We were talking about it, but somebody on Facebook, Steal Something. I can't remember his full screen name, but he sent me this video of his kid, and his kid's probably, I'm going to guess, like 4 or 5, and he has his Boba like jacket on, and he's imitating Boba, like he's saying Boba's words, and the kid is excellent. Like he has like the Boba accent perfectly down. He's like 5. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. I'm going to ask him if we could show it on here if he's okay with it. If he's okay with it, I will. But it was so good. It was so funny. Yeah. He just, the way he says Tatooine and everything is just dead on. So there is I do know of a little kid who's out there digging it and loving it. It does happen, but yeah, my kid basically like the way that my kids see it is Boba and Mando are almost the same thing. But they like Mando because, and I think there's a couple of reasons. There's sort of less there in a way. So there's just more to fill in what you want it to be. But I think he's also a little bit paternal. And I think that I think children like that better. The costume, honestly, I think is better on Mando. I never thought I would say that, but I do think that they designed a better Boba Fett with him. And so you end up with, when kids just have that, kids see things in that binary mode of this or that, they just go right over to Mando. In my house anyways. And that's really good for Mando because I think Mando, on one hand, I think Star Wars is bad or as maligned as I can feel that Boba is at times. Boba Fett, I don't think is like the through on all of these various shows. I think it's Mando is the one who's going to connect all of these shows, and it's going to be the player in all of them, and Grogu probably. And so I'm glad that as long as Mando's doing well, we're not in a horrible.
Do you think they wrap this all up theatrically?
No,
they have to, right? They have to. Like this, they have to do it. If they're gonna do a big end, it has to be theater. They gotta cash in, make that $2 billion Grogu money, man. Like,
I don't believe in endings with Star Wars. Is what I will say, but I do believe that do they want it to culminate? I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they turned it into a new trilogy, or
well, see the original plan the original plan that Bob Iger was selling it to investors and sort of winking and hinting around and dancing around was that all of the Star Wars story films were going to end up culminating with films with all of those characters coming into one film. They were going to Avengers it. And that was where they were going with it. So at one point we were going to probably have the Boba film set in the same era as the Solo film. And then those films, had they both been massively successful, would have spawned something else. And then the culmination, Avengers model. And that's not happening now. Obviously we're not in that space, but these TV shows do seem to be doing that. You know what I mean? We were seeing Cobb Vanth introduced in Mandalorian now and expanded upon, and then introduced into the Boba Fett show. And I had heard he was going to be in the Rangers of the New Republic. And so I do see all of these things probably linking up into something on Disney Plus bare minimum. But if they do want to do a Star Wars movie in the future, something that could use all of those characters and a concept that is maybe bigger than your average Disney Plus concept, then and smaller and tighter, but also more valuable, then you end up probably with a film. But at the same time,
can't do it.
Yeah, I know. I realized it the second I started saying it.
I know.
But also, I think like a fair question is Lucasfilm focused enough to get there? That's the real question, because one of the things that we've had is that I feel like the character of Lucasfilm is kind of unfocused. Like, and people go, things get canceled, fire Kathleen Kennedy, and they go on that whole road. They just kind of go right down to the I'm gonna pout like a baby mode about it. But
Just
what
popped
is
in my head.
actually
You know what it reminds me of?
what?
It reminds me of? Late '90s Apple. When they
Late
had
90s Apple?
when they had a bunch of new they did the Newton, all these power PCs, they were selling
yeah.
their operating system, they had the clone out thing that they were managing, like all these different things. And then when Steve Jobs came back, he's like, we're cutting all this shit and doing 4 products.
It's kind of Apple's kind of like that right now in a way. Not that bad,
Yeah,
but they're
yeah,
not unlike that now. They kind of gone back to that.
Don't
that
break
mistake.
it fix. It
Yeah,
works.
there's like I get having different size hard drives on the iPhones, but there's do you want an iPhone made out of plastic? We got that. Yeah, you want an iPhone that's shinier, and
yeah, it's too much shit. They're gonna have to eventually. They'll get rid of this. There was a whole thing I read. I don't remember where I read it, but it was legit, and it was all about this study about CEOs who take over from other CEOs at companies, right?
yeah,
And like how these companies always, anytime a CEO takes over from a real successful CEO, they always just try to keep doing what they were doing, but more of it, sort of thing, right? And I feel
Yeah.
like I'm not complaining against Kathleen Kennedy, but like when you kind of take over from Lucas, you kind of do what Lucas would do, but more of it is sort of the idea. But it doesn't really hit that mark. It always just feels like a lesser version of the thing you got before. But I don't know why that is. Even if that's not the case, that it does come across that way. And the TV thing is the one thing where it starts to feel a little different, but they're starting to repeat themselves already. They're starting to are you good for 2 seasons with this crew?
Yeah,
Why am
I think
talking shit about Howard the Duck.
Rob's. No, he's just joking.
love
He just,
Howard the Duck.
he just showed up out of the blue. And he's like, I just joined off topic, but stop talking shit about. Maybe talk shit about Howard the Duck in the past.
So, dude, it's the first time I saw a duck with tits. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
God, I love that. I was never I had a question. I was like, what? I love that duck.
If
The tits.
if Howard the Duck can get Leah Thompson, maybe I can too. We all thought it. We all thought that.
Right.
Thank you, Howard.
I like that she has the plastic boobs. Yeah.
Apple One mode of operation is planned obsolescence. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, I had something to say and I lost it right out of my little brain hole. But what can you do? Yeah, I think we're gonna call this one a day because I got some stuff to do today. I'm gonna call this one a show, if you want to call it that. And if you're a channel member and you need the podcast feed, let me know. You can get a podcast version of the show if you would rather listen to us talk shit that way. And if you're a Patreon supporter, on Patreon you just get you get that feed. You get that RSS code to add into your phone, to your pod catcher, and then you can hear it as a podcast if you prefer that as well. And thanks to everyone who does support the show. And we'll be back tomorrow doing our normal jazz, right? Because why wouldn't we? And yeah, and thanks for joining us today. And Rob, thanks for all the crackles. Come on.
Crackle of my heart.
Come on. Crackle's not a bad candy. It's kind of like,
That's actually a good candy.
yeah, it's kind of like Nestle Crunch if you got a little bit of hair on your chest, like Blackroot and Willow. But anyways, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
It's not about spaceships.
Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show.
It's not about spaceships.
I swear these dogs are going to kill me.
You're talking about your old feet, your old dogs.